developed by faith. Every step we've taken has been a step of faith, and about 16, 17 years ago, I remember walking to the local National Bank at Mackay, where we were based then, and opening a bank account in the name of the organisation that I founded at that time, coming back from Hong Kong, and putting whatever it was, $20 or something, just to open that National Bank account in the name of the Missions Ministry Education Training Organisation that I was naming and registering with the government and so on. And ever since that time, we've never had a bank balance to speak of. We've developed everything that we've developed, and we've always operated out of cash flow. And I understand that not all of you will understand that, but most businesses or organisations or schools that start with somebody bankrolling it, whether it's a church starting a Christian school or a university being funded by a $20 million government grant, or whatever it is, a community organisation starting with business people sponsoring, and there's a huge sum of money that gets put in up front, everything's built and established, and then that debt is paid off. Sometimes a bank will bankroll it. Whereas for us, everything that we've done and tried to do really just started with $20 or $100 in the bank, and we've never seen a huge bankrolling of what we do, and that's what we're believing for now. That's the season that we're in. We're reading a book at the moment. I know I'm going all over the place here, and I've thought and prayed about what I'm doing this morning, and I'm just going to accept, and you'll have to accept it. I'm going to go all over the place a little bit this morning. I've got a message that I'll get to, but just bear with me as I get there and share this story with you, or these stories with you. We're just reading this book here. It's your time. Have you read that book, Jeff? Jeff will be very proud to know that this is one of only 2 or 3 books other than the Bible that I've read in the last 20 years or so. I'm not a book reader other than the Bible. I live out of the Word of God. There's never a day that goes by, I thank the Lord to say, that I don't reach into the Word of God and seek Him for His direction and ask Him how He'd speak to me. And I've been through several Bibles, and I keep them on my shelf, and all coloured in and highlighted and wrecked and ruined with colouring in. This is a fairly new one here. And so, yeah, I'm going to struggle to find all the colouring in that I can show you. I don't know how much it would stand out from there anyway. But it'll go the way of the others. And I've only read 2 or 3 books in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 or 20 years. But and when I do read a book, I skim read it. It takes me 2 or 3 hours to read a book, and I just get what I can out of it as I do that. But God has really used this book in our lives just recently. It's Your Time by Joel Osteen. You know Joel Osteen in the States, Jeff? He's got a huge church over there. I don't know, one of the biggest churches in the States. The biggest church is about 50,000 people in or something like that. And they bought a basketball stadium that was no longer being used as a basketball stadium 20 years after it had been built. And just leading up to that purchase, they had a couple of contracts on a couple of other properties and places that they were looking at that fell through. And at the time, Joel said they were quite peeved that, you know, the sellers had pulled out of these sales. And then they found this basketball stadium, which is quite well known. I forget the name of the basketball team that was purchased off, but people in the States know. But if I said the team, some of you might know it. And he said it's, in the book he says, it's as if that basketball stadium was designed and built for them. They had to have a place that 50,000 people could get in and out of quickly. They had to have a place that could facilitate the car parking for that. They had to have a place where all the sound and lighting gear that comes in and out of the place and all that sort of stuff, the catering and everything, can be dropped off by trucks in undercover areas. All of these things that they would have specified if they were building or designing a place for their church had been thought about and built into the construction of this, what is now their auditorium. And he started writing this book just as America was in the middle of the GFC, the global financial crisis, just a few years ago, 3 years ago. This has been on the Koorong top 10, 100, whatever it is, the last 6 months or so. This book has only just been released. And so when he was writing this book about 3 years ago in America, people were losing their mortgages. You know, the subprime crisis that happened that nearly crippled the States was going on. And God had called him to write this book, and he thought, this is the worst time in the world to write this book about faith. The cover says, activate with faith, achieve your dreams, and increase in God's favour in the middle of the worst financial crisis the States has ever seen. And he said to God, God, are you sure this is the book I should be writing? I'm going to be saying increase your favour. See an increase in the favour of God on your circumstances at a time that people will be losing their mortgages, their businesses will be going bankrupt, their accumulated savings are going to be diminishing, their stocks and shares are going to be disappearing. And you want me to write about your favour and people believing for God's favour on their life. And God said, that's exactly why I'm getting you to write this book. And on every page of this book there's a story. Every page there's a story of a person that desperately believed God to see God's favour, and God came through for them at that time, in His appointed time, but at that time that they believed and looked to Him. It might have taken 6, 12, 18 months, but they saw the favour of God. It tells a story of one lady that was believing God to give them a backyard pool that they could use to entertain people with, and the husband wouldn't have a part of it. I think he was a pastor from memory. Cherie's read the book a couple of times, as I have gone also back to reading just different chapters on pages of it. And her husband said, will you just drop it? We are not getting a pool. We don't have the money. I don't want a pool. It's too much work. And so God sent someone along who said, I want to bless you with a pool. And completely bypassed them and their finances and the husband and everything else, and basically put a pool in their backyard. And so that woman saw the favour of God come upon her life. And anyway, getting back to this story, I was walking around this morning on the campus of the school, and I got off track a bit, but all that to say, we believe, Sri and I believe that it's time for us to believe for a huge breakthrough in our lives and our ministry. We believe in God that He'll establish us with a facility on the Sunshine Coast. No one who's ever done anything for God has not seen a great breakthrough of some kind, some enormous financial provision, miraculous circumstances to bring about the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. I loved what Jeff said just in that interim time there about you being involved in the greatest project on earth. Just believe that with all my heart. I wanted to split that in. I know I'm going all over the place here this morning. I've got a very methodical, well set out message, 12 measures of faith that I could take you through mechanically and methodically, and we'll get to that and we'll do a bit of that in a minute. Now I know I'm going all over the place, but I just loved what Jeff said about you being involved in the greatest project on earth. And I believe you just need to remind yourself of that. Sometimes, we get jealous when we hear of what other people are doing, the church down the road, or the university in the States, Liberty College, Liberty University in the States at the moment, a Christian university in the States that currently today has 6,000 students that come on campus, and in addition to that, all the students that study externally. And we can look at those things and say, well, what about us? What about me? And what you've got to do is just flick the switch in your mind and say, I'm part of that project. I'm part of what God did with the church down the road. I might look at someone like Brian Houston and you might laugh at this and, forgive me if it sounds like I'm flattering myself, but But as a young 17-year-old, I might have thought that I would have been, you know, where Brian Houston is today, with a church of whatever and doing all these other things. And as I've grown through my life, I've had to deal with that sense of sometimes disappointment that I'm not where I thought I would be at a certain point in time. But I've learned to throw the switch, and as I stand there in a Hillsong meeting, as I did several years back, 4 or 5 years back, and there are 18,000 people under the one roof, worshipping God with thunderous praise, with incredible, almighty, resounding praise, and I feel like I'm in heaven. You know, rather than feeling a sense of jealousy or envy, you know, being in ministry and seeing somebody else's ministry, the fruit of the ministry, I don't feel a sense of jealousy or envy. I go, wow, I'm part of this thing. I'm part of what's happened. And as Vicky and I, wherever Vicky gone out today with the kids, we rub shoulders at the start of the meeting and we remind ourselves of witnessing on the streets of Ipswich all those years ago. I connect that sort of activity with what happens at Hillsong. That we're just part of the same project. We're all involved in the same project. And so Sheree and I, though, are believing that God's going to give us an incredible breakthrough, establish us with a facility on the coast from which we can operate and lift us to a new level where I don't have to anymore make bricks without straw, is the expression we now use, as the Egyptians forced the Israelites to do in that period just before they were released. Not only did they have to work as slaves and make mud bricks to build things out of, but they had to make the bricks without the straw. They had to go and get the straw as well as make the bricks. No longer was the straw supplied to them. And as the workload of what we're doing increases, and it's like the bigger the organisation gets, the harder I have to work, and sometimes it seems the less resource there is and the less time there is. It feels like we're making bricks without straw, and we know that it's our time to believe for a breakthrough. We're believing for something else. We're believing for God to lift us to a new level. And this morning, as I was walking around the school campus and going to staff devotions, I was thinking, am I just leading this organisation into a train wreck? I got into the devotion and the guy started to show this has all come out of the flood. This has all come out of my comments about the flood. This guy was doing staff devotion showing the four-wheel drive going across the flooded creek. Do you remember me telling this story last time or not? No. Across the river there was this four-wheel drive. It was a flooded creek. The floods were on. It was out west, the Condamine River or something like that. And this bridge, which was normally 16 metres above the dry creek floor with perhaps just a little trickle running through it if it had rained, was now in flood. And the water was that much above the road over the bridge. And this guy with his 4B begins to enter the water from the other side, and this photographer is just taking still snaps as the 4B comes into the water, and this photographer taking the snaps is blogging on the internet, he put it on YouTube or somewhere like that, and just with these little one-liners, and he takes a snap, the guy enters, and the water, as he gets a bit closer, he sees this guy taking the photos, sees a little 7-year-old boy next to his dad with a big cowboy hat on, who's driving his four-wheel drive across this flooded river. As the vehicle gets halfway across, he sees that it's towing a boat or a trailer, and at one point it just lifts from the bridge and twists sideways as if it's going to be washed right over the edge. And I'm sitting in this staff devotion watching these slides being presented by this guy that's bringing the staff devotion, and I'm thinking, God's answering my prayer, and he's going to tell me that I'm an idiot. The message is going to be how unwise we are as Christians and how we need to, be more circumspect and watch what we do. I thought, this is going to be the message. God is going to tell me I have to back off, lay off, stop, change direction, because it just looked like this thing was going to be washed over the edge. The car settled and continues to move on over the bridge and comes up out the other side. The farmer gets out, opens his door. You can see a shot of the water pouring out of the door. He gets out, 7-year-old son gets out, comes around the other side, and the guy says, yeah, if you thought that was bad, you should have seen the last one. And